Peace and blessings, greetings, and welcome to this celebration of Kwanzaa, sponsored by the Samuel L. Smith Educational Foundation. I'm your host for today, Baba Dr. Al Gourrier. We're going to celebrate the most significant African-American cultural event in the world. As a matter of fact, this Kwanzaa, which represents the 55th anniversary of the creation of Kwanzaa, will be celebrated by an anticipated 50 million people on every continent in the world this year. And so today, it's my pleasure to share with you this celebration in hopes that you will, in the future, celebrate Kwanzaa with your family, friends, and community. We begin our activity with a traditional salute or celebration. It's called habari gani. It's a Kiswahili word, which is the primary language that was used in the creation of Kwanzaa. And habari gani means, what's the news? So the appropriate greeting as you meet a friend or family during the celebration of Kwanzaa, habari gani to you, your response would be Ujama. Or if it's the second day and someone says habari gani to you, your response will be kuji chakulia, and so on and so forth. So we begin our celebration with what we call the Arambe salute. And it is a clenched fist raised, and for 3 calls, we say habari gani, habari gani, habari gani. And all members of the group are encouraged to join in the salute and to participate. That's the beginning of the involvement of your friends, family members, and community in your Kwanzaa celebration. Kwanzaa is a family celebration. It was designed to be celebrated by families. And a key and important component of the family are children. And so we encourage the involvement of children in the celebration, and I will share with you as we go along how we do that. In the background, we hear the sounds of drummers. In our community celebration, we always like to have the drummers to begin our celebration by putting us in the mood, by bringing us back to the homeland of Mother Africa. So in the background, we're here, as we hear the drummers, we begin the first component of our celebration, and it's called libation. Libation is a ceremony that goes back to the Book of Canara, better known as the Book of the Dead, written about 1250. And in the Book of the Dead, it introduces this African tradition of pouring libations. It's done in remembrance and honor of the ancestors and a reaffirmation of our linkage with them and a recommitment to the legacy. And that recommitment is both instructive and inspirational. So as we begin our first activity in our Kwanzaa today, we pour a libation. And we pour libation, which is a liquid, into the earth. And in this case, I pour it into the plant. And as I pour libations into the earth, dust thou art, and dust thou shalt return. So, our ancestors are now the dust of the earth, and we pour libations to nourish them, to show recognition and pay tribute to them, and to show appreciation for the efforts and sacrifices of those on whose backs we stand. We pour libation. And at this point in the program, we invite members of our audience and assemblage, our family members and community members. As we pour libation, we call forth our sheroes and heroes, those who have gone before us. And we invite each of the participants in our audience to call forth a hero or shero. And I will begin by calling forth the name of Baba Bebe Alfred James Gourrier, Harriet Tubman, Fannie Lou Hanner, Breonna Taylor, W.E.B. and Booker T, Nzinga, Toure, Nat Turner, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Ida B. Wells and Billie Holiday, Rodney King and George Floyd, grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts, uncles, teachers, friends, neighbors, and those who taught us how to love. Ashe. And that concludes our libations part of our Kwanzaa celebration. This year, as I've indicated, we are celebrating the 55th anniversary of the celebration of Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is an internationally celebrated indigenous, non-religious, non-historic, non-political African American holiday. The holiday celebrates the practice of family, community, and culture by African Americans worldwide. Kwanzaa was first introduced by Dr. Maulana Karenga, a Black Studies professor who describes himself as a cultural nationalist, and he created this holiday based on the African harvest celebration that pays tribute to the rich cultural roots of Americans of African ancestry. The celebration is observed for a period of 7 days, beginning on December 26th of each year through January 1st. Kwanzaa is about the good life. All good, great, and meaningful work is collective. And Kwanzaa is a product of cultural synthesis, Dr. Karenga says. It is based on the study of history, culture, and tradition of continental Africa and the diasporan countries. It deals with various cultural values and practices. It is very steeped in tradition, grounded in our cultural ancestry, and it is based in reason. Kwanzaa celebrates the first fruit or ingathering, reverence, communication, and commitment to the celebration. And Kwanzaa, the word K-W-A-N-Z-A, means first fruit. And the goals of Kwanzaa, as presented by Dr. Karenga, are first of all to reaffirm and restore our African heritage and culture, to create, introduce, and reinforce the principles of Nguzuzaba, which I will be introducing shortly, which are the basis of the celebration. In creating Kwanzaa, Dr. Karenga wanted to create a non-heroic holiday in the African American community and create a communal celebration which reaffirms and reinforces the bonds between us as a people. Kwanzaa is designed to reinforce the bonds between us and give us a special opportunity to enjoy the celebration of ourselves and our history, and to reaffirm the communitarian vision and values of African culture, and to contribute to its restoration among African people in the diaspora, beginning with Africans in America and expanding to include the world African community. So Kwanzaa is celebrated around what is called the Kwanzaa table, and that's what we have before us here today. And the basis of the Kwanzaa table and what you can do in your home, the first component of the Kwanzaa table is the mat. It's a basic straw mat that is placed at the bottom of all of the components, and it's called the mkika, or mat. On top of the mat is placed a candle holder, a 7-candle holder, and it is called the Canara. So the Canara here behind Dr. Karenga's book is a candle holder that holds 7 candles. And in the candle holder, there are 7 candles, each candle representing a different principle of Nguzo Zaba. And if you notice, the colors are red, black, and green. And they are the colors of liberation given to us by Dr. Marcus Garvey when he gave us the Bendera, which is the red, black, and green flag of liberation. And so as we go through our celebration, I'll show you how we light the candles in a specific order. But these 7 candles are known as the Mashumu Saba. That means 7 candles. And also on the table is the Kabambo Cha Moja. It's the cup of unity. And presently, during the celebration of Kwanzaa, you can put liquid into the Kabambo Cha Moja and just pass the cup along so that each participant can hold the cup in order that they will feel a part of participation in the ceremony with the Kabambo Cha Moja, the cup of unity. Also on the table are various gifts, and the gifts of Kwanzaa are called zawardis. Now, Kwanzaa, unlike the traditional holiday where gifts are everything, gifts are given, but primarily to children, and there are 2 basic things that we give children, and that is books and educational toys. Now, I have a zawardi on this table that was given to me by one of my daughters, and it is the Sinkofa plate. Sinkofa is not officially a part of the Kwanzaa celebration, but the process which we are using to share Kwanzaa with the community is part of Sinkofa. Sinkofa is a Kiswahili term that literally means go back and fetch it. And it is associated with a phrase, if you don't know where you've come from, then you won't know where you're going. I'm wearing a Sinkofa necklace, and here is the Sinkofa bird. It's a bird flying forward with his feet and body facing forward, but its head looking back to the past, capturing the past so he will know exactly where he's going. So Sinkofa is a process that we are using to share with the world the principles of Kwanzaa. And Kwanzaa is something that should not just be celebrated during the last week of the year. Kwanzaa is something that should be celebrated the year long. And so these are the basic components of the Kwanzaa table. Now there are some other implements that are on the table, and I'll review some with you. For example, I've already introduced you to the mkika, which is the mat, the foundation on which all of the items on the table are placed. And we have the Canara. Now, there's one particular piece that I'd like you to pay particular attention to. It is the mezoa. Now, it is one or part of the crop. And since Kwanzaa is the celebration of the festival, activities of this type are, while found in Africa, are actually celebrated all over the world. I have been to Barbados, where there's a certain time of the year at the end of the harvest season where the crops are gathered. It's called crop over. And there's a very big celebration in Barbados called Kaduman and Kuhublapat. And it's a similar kind of celebration of the harvest. Well, one of the specific pieces of the harvest that I want to call your attention to that Dr. Karenga felt played an important part in this is the Muhindi, or corn. It can also be called mezoa. All of the crops are called mezoa, but the Muhindi is the corn. And what is significant about the piece of corn on your Kwanzaa table is that the ear of corn represents you as an individual. So you would have an ear of corn on the table for each of your family members. And if you pay close attention to this Indian corn that I have here, you notice it has different colored kernels. Well, while the individual piece of corn represents you, the kernels represent your prosperity. So the corn represents you as an individual and all those who will come from you. So it plays a significant part in our celebration, because while the celebration begins with me and you, hopefully it is a celebration you will share with your family, and it will be celebrated throughout life with all of the members of your family. So we have the mazeo, which are all of the various different crops that you can use, fruits and vegetables, and put them on your table. And that would conclude the key significant components of your Kwanzaa table: your mat, the Canara, your 7 candles, and your fruit display. And these are things that you can innovate and create in your house. It doesn't necessarily have to be a candle. I saw one lady, she took a glass and filled it up with red watercolor and with green watercolor, and she just sat it on a box. Be creative as you start your Kwanzaa celebration. The important thing is the values that we teach and translate to our family. And here are the values. They are called Nguzo Zaba, Nguzosaba, and they are the essence and basis of the Kwanzaa celebration. And on the first day of Kwanzaa, we light the first candle, which is the black candle, the candle of unity. And that is the first principle of Kwanzaa, unity. Unity. And when we light that candle, we discuss unity among ourselves with all of the gathering on the first day of Kwanzaa. On the second day, we light the second candle, which is the red candle, the first red candle, black candle. On the second day, we'll light the first red candle, and this candle will represent the second principle of Kwanzaa, which is kujichagulia, self-determination. Name yourself, define yourself, which is a very significant and important principle. You can locate the principles. You can go to the Google, Google Kwanzaa or the Nguzo Zaba. I've spelled it for you, and you can find the principles, and you can get a little more in-depth information, and you could share that information with your audience, and you can begin to discuss with them how this principle can be incorporated that day and into your life and into your society. So on the first day, it's umoja, unity. The second day, we light the first red candle, which is kujichagulia, which means self-determination. On the third day, we light the first green candle, and that'll be the candle on the left next to the black candle. And it is Ujama, and it means collective work and responsibility, that we must work together. We must do the work. Kwanzaa is a celebration that started in the heart and mind of one person, and now it's celebrated on every continent on the earth. And we want to see the celebration of Kwanzaa grow. So on the third day, you will discuss the principle of collective work and responsibility of each of us as individuals and each family member and community member who participates. On the fourth day, we light the second red candle, which is Ujama, which means cooperative work and responsibility, that we will work together collectively as a family, and we will share our our profits. Cooperative economics. On the 5th day, we light the second green candle, which is Nia, purpose. And the purpose is to unite us as a family, as a people, to restore ourselves to our greatness. And we will only do that if we embrace the principle of Sinkofa and go back and fetch our history, our culture, and the contributions that African people have made to this country and to this world. Information that you have been deprived of receiving in the Eurocentric system of education, which is the system in place in 99.99% of our schools. So Nia, purpose. Purpose, the main purpose of Kwanzaa is to unite us as a people. On the 6th day, we light the third red candle on the right. And that principle that we celebrate that day is Kuumba, creativity. Each of us is blessed with our Creator with a certain talent. And we need to strive to find out what that talent is and find how we can put that Kuumba, creativity, together in order to improve our lives and our community. And on the 7th day, we light the green candle and celebrate the final principle of Nguzo Zaba, which is Imani, faith. So quickly, I'll go over the 7 principles of Nguzo Zaba, and each principle is celebrated each of the 7 days of Kwanzaa. On the 1st day, we celebrate our first principle, which is Umoja, unity. On the 2nd day, Kujichagulia, self-determination. On the 3rd day, we celebrate the principle of Ujama, collective work and responsibility. On the 4th day, we celebrate the principle of Ujama, cooperative economics. On the 5th day, we celebrate Nia, purpose. On the 6th day, we celebrate Kuumba, creativity. And on the 7th day, we celebrate Imani, faith. And these are the principles of Nguzo Zaba, introduced to us by Dr. Karenga at the beginning of the creation of Kwanzaa, as I indicated, that was started in 1966. So this is the essence of our celebration. Kwanzaa is about promoting the good life. And the good life is the means by which we as a people will restore ourselves, recapture the information, the knowledge, the history, the fact that archaeologists and anthropologists say that the first human being to walk the face of the earth was an African woman named African Eve, born at the base of Mount Kilimanjaro in southeastern Africa. The first civilized society, cultivation of the earth, was done by African people. Long before the first history book of man, written by a man named Herodotus, who in his book, by the way, described his teacher as people of burnt skin and kinky hair. Herodotus' teachers were Africans. And long before the civilization of Europe emerged, university cities existed in the country of Africa. In my 30-some-odd years of study in the Eurocentric system of education, they taught me all of the great epics: the French epic, Charlemagne, the Spanish epic, El Cid, the British epic, Beowulf, the Italian and Greek epics, the Aeneid, the Aeneid, the Odyssey, the German epic, the Nibelungen, but never once did anyone ever share with me that there was an African epic. And part of your homework is going to be to look up the African epic. It's called Sundiata, and it is the story of a young man who was born into slavery. And in that same society where he originally was a slave, he rose up to be the king and emperor of an empire, the Empire of Mali. Look it up, the Epic of Sundiata. I appreciate your patience today, and I hope that as you celebrate Kwanzaa in your home or in your community, you take some of the ideas, do some research. There are many books now that have been written about Kwanzaa and different facets of Kwanzaa. And as I conclude, I want to talk about one of the concluding activities in the Kwanzaa celebration that's close to my heart, and it's called the Karamu. And on the last day of the celebration of Kwanzaa, we have a Karamu. And what is a Karamu? It's what we do every night as a family. We come together and have a meal. So as you have your Kwanzaa celebration, you conclude your Kwanzaa celebration with a Karamu, where you have various foods of African and African-American culture that you could share with your participants. So once again, I'll briefly review with you. We start with libation, the pouring of libation. Then we proceed by explaining to our participants and guests what each element of the table is. And in some of my community Kwanzaa, I'll have large amounts of fruit, and at the end of the Kwanzaa, I'll allow participants to come up and take a piece of fruit from our Kwanzaa table. You have your Bendera, your red, black, and blue liberation flag. You can have examples of zawadis on your table, as I have here. A zawadi, as I indicated, that was given to me by my daughter. And then you have your candles, the Mishamu Saba, and the Canara. And you can be innovative with exactly what they are and how they're used. I went into a store and I found a little white candle holder with a little battery in it. And I went home and sprayed few of them red, 3 of them red, 3 of them green, and 3 of them black. And I use that as an example of some of the Kuumba things that you can do in your celebration of Kwanzaa. Thank you very much for your time today. I'd like to thank Blue Soul Productions for assisting Sister Sian Gourrier as my assistant today. And thanks to the Samuel L. Smith Educational Foundation, the sponsors of our function today. Habari gani, my brothers and sisters.